Platypuses, he said, scrolling up there. The platypus. It is. They don't actually know where it went on here either, and that's fine. I don't really care. Anyways, I did put it in here though, and so I'm a little bit upset with myself right now. And I can just anyways, I'll just do this right here. The platypus, sometimes called the duck-billed platypus. Other times called maybe the only reason that I would visit Australia, because there's no way anything else could get me to visit the island with spiders that literally want to hunt and kill me. But look at it. It's over here. This video, which is comes from the San Diego Zoo, link is actually in the description. Please go and watch that. Shows my favorite creature, literally my favorite creature in the world. I don't know what I did with, there it is. Favorite creature in the entire world. Susan can actually certainly attest to this. She's behind me in this area. She's around there somewhere. When this right here, this dog toy arrived last year, we immediately hid the box because we didn't want the dogs, specifically Benny Barkington. The corgi Benny Barkington, follow him on Twitter at DoseCorgis15, taking ownership of the most amazing animal ever created, as far as the even in the most amazing toy of an animal ever created. About platypuses. Platy platypi. Don't know. They're monotremes, meaning they pee, poop, have sex, and lay eggs from the same orifice. You know, like snakes and birds. They have webbed feet. They walk on their knuckles. They have film over their eyes so that they can see underwater. They walk like a Komodo dragon. Their bill allows for the filtration of debris. Males have spurs on their hind legs, which will inject venom. Also, give them some leverage when it's platypus fun times. And they lay eggs. And they have echolocation so they can locate prey under rocks underwater. They're like bird, snake, shark, duck, rooster, Komodo dragon hybrids, and yet they're also mammals. There's not a better animal on the planet. And you won't convince me otherwise, because he's just so cute. They're cute. I forgot which button goes to the intro. So you probably, I would say probably, you definitely came here to hear me talk about the stuff that is in the video, right? The title of the video, something about consent and all that stuff. Well, I'm going to get to that. I promise that I really am going to get to that. But first, there's other news that I haven't been able to get to in, I don't know, a month or something like that. Anyways, our first story has to do with the arrest of 6 people for the burglary of an Arkansas Buddhist temple. Now, I know what you're thinking, those damn white evangelical fundamentalists, right? Well, take your goddamn stereotype elsewhere. I went the wrong direction here, actually. Boop, there. It should be right. Nope. I guess the photo is not going to be in there, Susan. Don't know why. I don't know why that photo is not in there. It should be. Anyways. There are 6 folks whose names that I cannot and will not attempt to say were all described as being natives of Romania. 4 of the women visited the first temple on, there it is, on April 18th and asked for prayers for a family member. One of the women then asked to use the restroom while another distracted the lone occupant of the temple, who then, of course, asked I don't know why the volume is so low. Do I need to adjust something? It's every time. I don't know, because I'm in the yellow on my NVIDIA broadcast and everything. Sorry, I don't know. Yeah, you produce a show and do everything at the same time, et cetera, and yada, and that's the way that it goes. And so, if you're here to watch an actual professional show, wow, get ready for not that. You know what I mean? 2 days later, 5 women and 1 man returned and forced their way into the temple, which is inside of a house, according to the sheriff's affidavit. They then fled and were apprehended in their maroon van. Now, this isn't the first time they've been involved in this type of idiocy, though. From La Puente, California, and a group was recently asked monks at the Buddhist temple to chant for their sick grandmother who was actually distracting the monks as the others searched for valuables. When the group left, the monks realized their safety deposit box was missing, and Sumita, who's the sheriff, said the alleged burglary seemed, quote, well coordinated. A San Bernardino Buddhist temple experienced much of the same. There it is. Come here. Well, that's in Durham. My bad. Let's go back a screen. Either way, I put clicks in here because the first picture never showed up. It'll show up probably just randomly inside of the freaking slideshow. Anyways, while the monks were chanting, a surveillance camera captured one woman attempting to break open a door in the temple and another woman struggling to open a large box and take a large box. A monk said the group took their safety deposit box with thousands of dollars in donations. Police in the nearby Riverside also received a report over the weekend about a temple theft. As reported by the Arizona Republic, on April 8th, a Lao Buddhist temple in Phoenix was robbed. This is the one that's on the screen right now, of $1,500 by a group of women who entered asking for prayers. In Durham, North Carolina, a monk disrupted a break-in of the Buddhist temple, was told by the burglars that they were there to pray, and then the burglars, they stole a small amount of cash. Stop stealing from monks. If you want to garner some sympathy, do a Robin Hood thing from the multi-million-dollar evangelical leaders who, as far as I can tell from the last spring, urge their congregations to give to charities while giving none of their own money. No, I'm actually kidding. Don't rob anybody. Just don't. At least not without a nonprofit designation next to your name, because at that point, then it's okay. Now, vandalism is apparently a big thing in religious circles these days. In mid-April, 4 synagogues in the Bronx were vandalized. And this by a person who was throwing rocks and kicking in windows. Police are still in search of the subject. And I imagine that these subjects would be the same people that are attacking AAPI and things like that. I have some of my own suspects that I would think about. But in the meantime, I'm not going to talk about them members of Congress who hate Jewish people. Marjorie Taylor Greene. In the meantime, New Yorkers are doing what they can or what they do best, finding a reason to pretend like they like each other. On April 16th, clergy from 20 New York congregations, including Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, and Christians, met as the Interfaith Security Council held its first meeting to talk about how to share expertise and improve relations with law enforcement. Um, the police are part of the problem. How about a police gang in Los Angeles who gained more respect after being involved in a shooting? Then there's this cool, and see, it went backwards anyways. It's going to be on there. There's a tattoo here anyways. A cool tattoo of a skull, which designated to other LA officers who were the actual white nationalists. The FBI detailed the threat of white nationalists and skinheads infiltrating police stations in order to disrupt investigations against fellow members and recruit other white supremacists. Then, if it goes, hey, look, there's that image I said would just show up in the middle of the thing. That's the Romanian people. There you go. Yep, and that one's there too. So it's just going to show up, and that's fine. But a hooded skull and sight tattoo on the left ankle of a Los Angeles community deputy showing their initiation into a fraternity of white supremacists known as the Grim Reapers. One deputy, because of his tattoo, gained his deputy position because of that. The same happens to other white supremacist games like the Pirates, the Vikings, the Rattlesnakes, and the Cavemen. Because white supremacy. There's also Baltimore's gun trace task force, Philadelphia's lying bitches unit, and the Chicago Police Department has such an entrenched legacy of violence that the University of Chicago created a torture archive to document its intragenerational savagery. So maybe the black incarceration rate isn't exactly due to black culture, Sam Harris. Speaking of abuse, the domestic kind. And not just the domestic kind that's by the cops. But yes, also them. Because they do that a lot. All the time, actually. True. By the way, links will be in the description for all of this, including that cool platypus video at the beginning. You should definitely go watch that. It's from the San Diego Zoo. That's the second time today I've actually been impressed by zoos. The Oregon Zoo earlier had 3 otters that they had in I'm not a big fan of zoos, but they had 3 otters who had been orphaned but then rescued, and they were in a bucket of ice. And then this, the platypus, obviously, is from San Diego Zoo. So, anyways, a report recently released by Jewish Women International titled Domestic Violence in the Jewish Community. They found survivors of abuse seeking help turned first to friends or families and then to clergy. Not a single domestic violence service provider interviewed for this report they did, which was, again, a year long, indicated that survivors turn initially to hotlines or helplines, secular domestic violence programs, medical professionals, or law enforcement. The last one kind of makes sense because cops, again, besides the fact that they abuse, like 40 some odd percent of them abuse their spouse or their partner, don't investigate rapes either or sexual assault. And they also don't investigate really anything. They're actually really bad at their jobs. If I was good, if I did 30% of my job at work, I wouldn't have a job. And yet cops basically at that point are like, look, we're MLB players and that puts us in the all-star game. If you're 33% in baseball, you're awesome.
You're the Texas Rangers.
Oh, no, 33% is a really badass batting average, by the way. If you hit 33% in like batting average in baseball, and especially in the MLB, you're doing something right and you're going to go to the all-star game. It's basically the same thing with cops. You become an all-star cop when you survive, when you are able to solve 33% of the crimes that you're called for. Instead, most survivors turn to a trusted community member in times of crisis. The article goes on to tell the clergy they need to be ready for the ongoing and upcoming deluge of those seeking comfort after abuse. And Rabbi Kirschbaum asks hard questions like, quote, are there resources at hand to offer immediate spiritual nourishment to someone feeling both trapped and full of self-blame for their entrapment? If a victim does decide to leave her abuser, can you as clergy help her to stay in the community? What would a trauma-informed response to her suffering look like, such that you do not inadvertently misdirect her into re-traumatizing experiences? Are you prepared for safety planning? Able to help her name which of the four stages of change that those in hurtful or unhealthy situations tend to move through on the way to safety and stability? This is an amazing article. And it's necessary not just for clergy, but Also, for those in secular communities who have opportunities to listen to victims, to believe victims, and to let victims know that you're seen. What will we do if somebody trusts us and comes to us? Sorry, Aunt Jer. Just know that cops fucking suck. Just call it that. But because they suck so bad, they're all star cops. Moving forward in, yes, I'm certain this will work news, Pope Francis invited faithful, invites the Catholic faithful to a month-long rosary marathon for the end of the pandemic. Now, this began at the beginning of May with Pope Francis saying, quote, in this month of May, led by the shrines scattered all throughout the world, we are reciting the rosary to pray for the end of the pandemic and for the resumption of social activity and work. And this is on May 5th. He encouraged the faithful to join throughout the entire month of May. And you know what? Coronavirus cases dropped this month, down from 826,000 new cases per day on May 1st to just 526,000 just today. Now, this isn't the lowest that we've been. We had just over 320,000 per day in the middle of February, but maybe prayer works. Or maybe more people are getting vaccinated and understand that it's really important to do that. And I don't know, pray if you want to. I hope that if that's the case, that it really helps you to get comfort and everything, but also socially distance, vaccinate, wear a mask. It's not difficult to do. It's not about you. I mean, it is, but it's not just about you. Seriously. Speaking of the Pope and somebody who, I don't know, talks about him, Liz Cheney, ousted from party leadership. She invoked the Pope and, quote, power of faith. Yeah. So Cheney did the whole maybe we shouldn't lie about the election thing, and maybe the former president guy is a fucking liar. And that's a lot coming from me and my family because my father is literally the dick who got tons of Americans and Iraqis killed because he lied about Iraq.
He also shot a guy.
And shot somebody in the face. And then had that person that he shot in the face apologize to him on TV. Anyway, she quoted Pope John Paul II's faith and freedom and then prayed in front of House members. She is a Methodist, by the way, asking God to help them speak the truth. The prayer, of course, didn't work. But man, it's so odd to me when I am and when I'm like, look, if there is a God, would you mind keeping Liz fucking Cheney in her position of power because she's the one who apparently is doing the right thing in the Republican Party right now. Literally, Liz Cheney. Of all the fucking people that I want, if I were to pick a fucking Republican, which I don't want to, and I'm just gonna keep saying fucking a lot anyways. Obviously, I have said this is not a children's show. At the point that Liz Cheney, I'm just agreeing with the war. Look, this is like me agreeing with something that the late John McCain's wife says. First off, fuck off. This ain't John McCain's Republican Party. All right, stop trying to invoke that warmongering fuck. All right, just because he voted one time to keep the Affordable Care Act, man, fuck that dude. All right, he almost sunk an aircraft carrier by himself. But the fact that this is what I agree with. This is that I'm like, yo, if there is a God, take some of her prayers, right? Listen to her bullshit. Man. Remember that Canadian pastor who called the police Nazis and the Gestapo because they wanted to ensure that he obeyed the law? Yeah, he was arrested finally for quote organizing an illegal in-person gathering. Basically, he had people at his church and a fuck ton of them at his church. Now, this is a bit of a difficult situation for me because I do want him to obey the law and I do want him to make sure people are safe. That is his job. Really, it is as his job as a pastor. He is supposed to be a place of refuge and that type of thing. But now he has this whole persecution complex, like even more than he did before, right? That's what he has. Now he can continue to play on that and he can get more money, which I'm certain he has done. This was, of course, earlier this month. Why do they play politics with this? Churches are already, as we've noted on this show multiple times, losing congregants and thus losing money. You'd think that they would want to protect and keep alive those who they still have, especially because more than a few people who attend church, both are church members both in Canada and the United States, are older. So these are the people who are most susceptible, most vulnerable, outside of those that have other underlying conditions. You'd think that they want to keep them alive, and yet I guess they don't really care, and they just want to not have jobs. And it might actually work out they don't have jobs anymore. But I'm just like, why would you want to kill them? Anyways,
So they can go to heaven.
I guess that works out, which that doesn't really make sense if they're against abortion then. Anyways, remember that so this Cuyahoga, sorry, Falls Pentecostal televangelist Ernest Angley passed away earlier this month. Good.
Wait, say the name of the church again?
Cuyahoga?
Cuyahoga?
Kaya, blah, thank you. Chinook. It's not how you pronounce the helicopter or the native tribe.
I'm so sorry.
Cuyahoga Pentecostal pastor Ernest Angley is dead. He's a grift and hate preacher who was accused of sexual assault multiple times. Fuck that dude. I'm glad he's dead. Is there the other one just didn't make it?
Oh.
Yeah, the other photo just didn't make it. I don't know.
Of Ernest Angley?
No, I had other things about Ernest Angley too, like actual literal stuff from his, I think, from around like his churches and stuff, where these are multiple young men who accused him of sexual assault, and this has been back since like the 70s.
Yeah.
So yeah, good. Fuck that dude. I'm glad he's dead and he can't abuse anybody else. With that being said, this is not closure for those that he did abuse. And so again, we're talking, as I mentioned earlier, it was on there that clergy and okay, let's just go ahead and say the police aren't going to do a goddamn thing. Why would they? They're 40% of them. Clergy need to be those who are trusted, not those who are abusing people. Stop. I need to to get some comfort with from the platypus before I go into this next part.
Does the platypus have a name?
Oh yeah, he does. I it's Dongo or something.
Oh.
I just like took it off of him,
Oh.
or I don't them. I don't really know. Again, they're monotremes. There's no way to fucking tell.
I love them.
It's a cloaca, by the way, is basically what that is. If you're a monotreme, there's only two monotremes in mammalia. They are both in Australia, and they are the platypus and they are the echidna, which looks like a porcupine but is not.
I knew that.
Yep, she did. I had, and Susan can tell you this, a bunch of stuff prepared for this. Let me see. Actually, let me see if I can do this right here. I wonder if it's. Do I still have it on there? No, it's not on there. So I'll just click it then. Fine, it's fine. Deep dive. I have no idea where the audio for that is.
Yeah, I know.
Or like the transition and stuff. It's in there somewhere. But there you go. I clicked it. I had a ton of slideshow stuff, court cases. Oh, we went over whether or not, like, we went over whether I should actually put people's names on this, even people that are in court documents and who have come forward publicly and who have testified against these individuals. And like, that was a conversation that we really had, even though they're already public. Should I, during this segment, which is addressing something that is pervasive in secular community, pervasive and all throughout atheism, And I decided I might read a couple of things that I have, but I'm not going to put this stuff on the screen. I have it all. There is, if I haven't already put it in there into the description, there is a link to every single thing that I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to do. This is a very frustrating topic for me. It angers me to my very core, and the amount of times that I have told people one of the main reasons that I don't address this person or address a lot of claims from this person is not just because they're, and this is just one example of, they're an arrogant fuck, but also because they're a sexual predator. The amount of times that I have heard from those that I'm responding to that say, "What? What are you talking about? I've never heard about this." And the information is readily available with one click. It, dozens, dozens of times. The atheist community has an issue with not accepting scholarly work, anyways, and especially when it comes to historical Jesus. So I guess doing additional research is not something that secular people are good at either. I don't know. It's easier to just go listen to somebody debate, right, than actually go and do the research ourselves, isn't it? But what I'm talking about, I really should have taken some more like actual drinks. Celebrities in the secular community. I'm not just talking about Sam Harris and his Islamophobia and his outright fucking racism. All right, no. As far as I know, Sam Harris has never been accused of sexual impropriety. Good. It doesn't. It doesn't clear him of everything else that he does, and it's a lot, and it's a lot of harm, especially and I hesitate to call it a community, right? Because certainly not, but of the secular world, for him to be a vocal and easy to spot figure, for him to say things that to say the things that he does regarding Islam and Muslims, and then to turn around and also say the things that he does about quote unquote black culture, is it only adds to the white toxic masculinity which exists and is pervasive throughout North American atheism, American specifically atheism, the celebrities. But no, I'm speaking tonight about others. Those who are atheists, who are atheist celebrities, and have been accused multiple times with multiple attestation, right? We talk about that a lot, where we want multiple attestation, multiple sources, multiple people who have been involved, even of sexual impropriety, regarding sexual harassment up to sexual assault. Rape is what we, you know, call that. When you go so far as to not just force yourself onto somebody or grab somebody's breasts, but rather to force yourself, force somebody to have sex with you against their will, without their consent. And by the way, this is a very, very, very heavy subject, because I know that as many people as have come forward against these individuals, there are many others who have not. And that's the reason that I speak out against this so much. The Because they deserve to be heard. And because they deserve to be seen, to know that people can't just get away with this. David Silverman, he blocked me on Twitter. It's a bit of a badge of honor for me. David Silverman was the president of American Atheists for a very long time. And I got to meet him. And I got to meet him when I was one of the assistant state directors of American Atheists down in Texas. And I got to meet him and took a photo with him. Not just myself, but the other assistant state directors that were there because our state director had won an award that year. And so we were able to, that person wasn't there. And so we were able, we picked it up for her. And I had no idea. But less than a year later, David Silverman was removed from his position as president of American Atheists. At the time, and I can't go into things obviously that we were told in any meetings or anything like that. And no, I never will, so don't ask. He was removed because of sexual impropriety. What's funny is like all narcissists, like all abusers, and this is going to be a common refrain in this, and it is it's a common refrain. He not only vehemently denies doing anything wrong, he tried to push it off towards something else. Like he was like, no, it was because of my book sales. It was because they thought that I was double dipping in book sales. No, that's the reason why. When no, we're actually very well aware that the reason you were canned was because of the allegations against you, the credible allegations against you by multiple people. He was removed. But then he was put on to a board. Now, he never has actually come out and apologized to anybody. A common refrain yet again. Not even one of those half-hearted non-apology apologies. Not even anything where he comes out and he says something like some things like I have said. Now, I've never sexually assaulted anybody, but I have hurt people by not being honest with them. And for me, I'm not owed their ear for an apology. But these individuals, David Silverman being the one that I'm speaking about right now, haven't even come forward with any apology. For me, for those that would speak with me, I have apologized to them, and they do not know, or I'm not owed their acceptance of my apology. And for others, I have for so long regretted my actions and my decisions and how I harmed others by betraying their trust. And I'm not scared to admit it. David Silverman, first among these, has never done that. Never even, as far as I can tell, even considered it, but rather attacked his victims and was then I think it was less than a year later, placed into another position of power on the board of another atheist organization, where he was then again accused with his messages that he sent to another woman, sexual harassment, in another position of power. which he was placed in, even though he had never even been slightly repentant. Not even of, he had actually filed suits against American atheists, but not even repentant of the fact that not even the book thing, but rather the fact that people would even come against him at all. Multiple people with credible allegations against him. And he's surfaced yet again and has an incredibly large following amongst those who are atheist red pilled. It's amazing how, because he got mad at the few of us that are woke, the few of us that let him know that the people he was following in the Republican Party are the people that write these things that onto their platform, which are not aligned with anything he has ever said. It's rather amazing that he changed his entire point of view, that he changed his ideas regarding abortion. He changed his ideas regarding the economy. He changed his ideas regarding many, many things, many, many subjects, all because of the wokeness, the people who were too woke. It's amazing that he's doubled down so much that we actually predicted he would do this. And the reason why is because of his own actions. And yet he still has, and you can see them. You go follow him on Twitter. He's atheist pants or some crazy shit. I don't know. And look at his following. Look at him. And look at the things that he says. Unrepentant. And look at his followers. Not just, I know that there are some people that hate follow him. I get that. I don't know why you hate follow him, but there's some, I get, no, go look at his followers that reply to him on his Twitter and tell me if you see anything that maybe they all belong in certain categories they can't help, obviously, but still. Michael Shermer. And by the way, there is much more I could say about Silverman, but I think the point stands. Michael Shermer has been credibly accused of rape. I'm going to read this right here because this is from James Mark McIntyre. This is back in 2018. He was an adjunct professor of philosophy at Santa Barbara City College. He says his career is collateral damage in the political moment. This is exactly what somebody says when they say the people that are coming after me are doing it politically. Matt Gaetz. The reason, by the way, that he was removed from his position at Santa Barbara City College is because he invited Michael Shermer, who's a columnist again for the Scientific American, to speak on his campus in March of 2018. And nobody showed up. I say nobody, it was remarkably sparse. This was prior to the pandemic, and yet people were so socially distanced in this auditorium. It's because earlier that day, a BuzzFeed article was shared. That was a BuzzFeed article that's a couple of years old, but regardless, this shows that there are still some consequences. But this is also something else that I'll get to in a moment. Shermer is someone who has been accused of sexual harassment and rape by multiple women. Although the police did not bring formal charges against him, this is by the chair of chemistry, Rayanne Napoleon, wrote this. Not bring formal charges against him, there have been many witnesses that have publicly corroborated the stories of the victims. Napoleon said Shermer still has the right to free speech, which is true. But she is important here, wanted to warn women attending the talk that they should be careful not to be alone with him or hang around late on campus after the talk is over. Quote, I am also using this platform to highlight this information to faculty and staff so that you can choose whether you will support this event. Good. This person shouldn't be given a platform. But here lies the rub. Did McIntyre know about the allegations against him? The multiple allegations, the credible allegations by multiple people, not just of sexual harassment, but also rape. And if he did, oh, never mind, as it turns out. Of course, Michael Shermer denies the allegations. The allegations here, they involve attempted groping and another lewd behavior at scientific conferences. One woman said he'd purposely gotten her drunk at a conference in order to assault her. Napoleon received an email from Mr. McIntyre, and it says that he was disappointed that scientists had urged women not to be alone with Shermer. A high level of hysteria is being pushed that, quote, whether or not you will support this event is somehow a litmus test. I suppose I could hire private security to follow the accused every moment on campus, but I have no probable cause to do so. Accusations are insufficient evidence of guilt in my ethical calculus. Imagine that. Imagine a white man, a white secular man, defending in the face of a woman who said she simply wants to protect young women from a person who had been credibly accused of sexual harassment and rape. Imagine that the response that she received was from the white man saying, accusations don't matter to me, saying it's hysteria and part of a political ploy. The fact that Shermer, who ignored the platform and still does have platforms, find out the last time he published a book or anything else on the internet which has been consumed is a common refrain. Lawrence Krauss. Lawrence Krauss, of course, was at the University of Arizona or something, I think. I think he was at the University of Arizona. I'd have to, if not, I think it was a Pac-12 school or maybe Arizona State. If it's Arizona State, super duper sorry, Wildcats for that. You won the Big Ten or the Pac-12 in baseball. You get over it. Has actually been in Lawrence Krauss has been in videos with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's been in videos with Richard Dawkins. You want to find a person who doesn't give two shits about sexual assault, sexual harassment. Richard Dawkins is one of them when he told a woman just to get over it. Also, the James Randi that died last year. Mm-hmm. Go and Google what he had to say about sexual assault. There we go. Under formal investigation by Arizona State University. So there you go. The allegations came from several women who accused him of sexual misconduct, which went unchecked for over a decade. He went to Stanford, but he had already been banned from 3 universities and was under investigation from Arizona State. Why did he get to go to the Breakthrough Initiative in order to talk about astrophysics and astronomy? Why did a person with all of this allegations that he grabbed a woman's breast at a meeting, he groped another's thigh, that he told an employee he would buy her birth control so she wouldn't inconvenience him with maternity leave? He made suggestive comments about a student's attire, and he suggested a threesome to a female job candidate at the Origins Project, which is his flagship program at Arizona State University. Credible over a decade, and yet still receiving, even to this day, invites onto platforms where people want to talk to him about astrophysics, and people want to talk to him about his Origins Project. And people want to, and by the way, when I say people, I'm not just talking about astrophysicists and other people from universities and things like this, but people that I know, people with much larger YouTube channels than this, and people with much more clout than I will ever have. But I've seen these individuals, every one that I have mentioned so far, unrepentant, vehemently denying and attacking those who are their victims. Allegedly, hashtag allegedly, right? I have to say that. Is that what that is? I
Yes.
pretty well have to. These are all allegations, obviously, even though we have messages, anyways. Allegations. This is the same thing as when you have to say allegations when they're investigating the former president for what he did with the phone call and trying to get Georgia's elections overturned. It's allegedly. Arizona State didn't fire Lawrence Krauss. They took him off of the Origins Project. They didn't fire him. They brokered an agreement. He was able to retire with his salary of $265,000 from Arizona State University. He got to retire. He's got books since then. He's been on channels since then. He's been platformed since then, and yet nobody mentions all of this. And the one that I have had and this is not by any means an exhaustive list, and certainly there are others who we simply don't know about. Allegations against Neil deGrasse Tyson, which are certainly not these types of allegations, but those exist. But I, especially recently, have had why, I blame it on mythicists, honestly. I'm just going to blame it on, look, just stop being wrong, and I won't have to continue to tell you guys about Richard Carrier. Okay? Richard fucking Carrier. Besides the fact, this is something because I saw him on a channel that I respect, a channel which, by the way, calls out cultic behavior, calls it out, a channel from a person that we have never met. This person doesn't know me from Adam, Eve, or whomever the fuck, but a person who I genuinely respect, and a person who is a feminist and who backs people and victims and says, listen to victims, platformed Richard fucking Carrier not a month ago. To talk about mythicism. And yes, I take issue with the fact that Richard Carrier is an obnoxious, arrogant person who is incapable of saying when he is wrong, and actually, as Susan can tell you, attacks people who question him and says that they're sometimes mentally incapable of understanding, apparently, that they need to go and see a psychologist or a psychiatrist and maybe find some medicine, which is something he says to people who question anything that he says. That's actually things. Again, in the description, I haven't posted this part yet, and I apologize, but in the description, there will be links to all of this. Go and read it yourself. And if it doesn't upset you, I kind of wonder why you're watching this show. I'm I did I and his dishonesty, narcissism. Thank you. That was the one that I was missing. I dislike his dishonesty as well, especially when it comes to the mythicist bullshit. Now he's, of course, a I think he went to Columbia, and I believe that he actually, I don't remember if he actually was a, I don't think that he was ever a professor at Columbia. I don't remember. I apologize. He was, yay. But I do know that he was going after his students, his female students, when he was either a professor or a teacher. I know that that is true. Oh, well, Doc, you don't have to. Um, but yeah, and of course, Carrier is not a biblical scholar, as Susan has said. He's not. He has his master's, I believe, in Roman classics. And so, yes, I attack his dishonesty in his books, and I have, and Susan can tell you, I have a video on here about how I attack his dishonesty in what he's written, and how it literally, page after page. And yet, nobody seems to know about everything that he has said and done. And again, this is decades. I bring him up last again, of course, because his has been the most vitriolic. And it goes back again to 2006, 2008. So, again, over a decade, where he feigned ignorance of rules that exist, saying that speakers can't fraternize with, and which is what he was. This is at Skepticon back in 2006, 2008, 2010, and then forward. The speakers can't fraternize with those who are attending, and he feigned ignorance in those areas. And he was married, of course, at the time. And he said that he would go in and attend these workshops from people that were there, and they said that they encourage these opportunities. If we encourage people to, if they are open to have relationships, consensual, safe relationships, that they encourage these things, to reach out and things like that. And he said, I don't understand why. That's it's obviously says it right there, even though he was obviously well aware that he was not to fraternize. And he feigned ignorance. It is incredible that a person who is able, and an incredibly intelligent individual, to somehow just not understand what that meant. And his first response to somebody at Skepticon who wrote him an email asking for his recommendation, his first response to this professional email was to come back and flirt with this person. To use his position of power to uh, to attempt to engage with somebody who obviously looked up to him and respected him, to provide that attention to that person. Now, they did eventually become involved in a Physical relationship. Yes. In which he, by the way, did cheat on his wife. Multiple times. He actually cheated on his wife multiple times. He had multiple affairs. And what's interesting, of course, is that when we talk about victims coming forward, of those that come forward, there are others who don't. And so anytime we say that there's 4 and 5 and 6, and in his case more, we know that there are others who are traumatized and who are victims. And who see people like these individuals. And again, we decided that I wasn't going to name names. See them attacked in secular communities by straight white men. Richard Carrier, of course, came out and tried to say that he was a feminist and tried to say that people should believe victims. And yet, when it came to him and the allegations against him of sexual impropriety, the allegations that he took advantage of people, the allegations that he deliberately touched women without their consent, for him to come out and to state these hypocritical stances. And this is an on and on and on. I wonder if I can possibly find a few things. I don't know where I put them. Love? Where did I put my stuff? With Richard fucking Carrier. There's a lot, by the way. You can ask PZ Myers about it because he sued PZ Myers because he was writing for Free Thought Blogs, wasn't it? It was Free Thought Blogs. And they temporarily suspended his account over Free Thought Blogs. And he responded by attacking them. And they said that they weren't going to have his stuff up there. He responded by attacking them, and then he sued PZ Myers. And the reason that they weren't having his stuff, his content on their website at that point, was because of the allegations against him. PZ Myers did the one thing that most white secular men, he did that thing that most do not. And he and the others on his board took a stand and said that they believe victims. And they were chastised for it. They were attacked for it. They were vilified. Why? Because they believed victims. And he put a suit against them. He actually filed his suit in Ohio. Multiple reasons that he did that. But of course, it had no standing in Ohio because he did not live in Ohio and could not state, because he was in California, that he was in and had created residence in Ohio long enough for him to have any kind of standing in the Buckeye state. And so, of course, this case was dismissed. And it was against 3 different people, one of them who was in Ohio, one of them in Minnesota, and one of them in Missouri. Skepticon, I believe, is the name of the organization. So he sued them again. He sued them in Minnesota. MoveOn.org just sent me a text, I guess. He sued them in Minnesota. He sued them in Missouri, and again sued in Arizona. Why? Millions and millions of dollars to do. Millions and millions of dollars because of the charges levied against him by multiple women. And he came out and said that he was polyamorous. And he wrote to another individual And you know what? I'm just gonna read it. I'm not going to say who it was, but I'm going to read it as soon as I can find it on here because this will give the idea of who Richard Carrier actually is as a person. But let me just locate it real quick because I think I sent it to you as well, Susan, right? At least the
The screenshot?
yeah. Where did I put this? I think it is in Google Photos, but this is actually a
The
link.
document itself.
Hmm.
Do you want me to send you the screenshot?
No, and I'm upset with myself that I can't find it now because well, he didn't understand polyamory,
Yeah,
which
that's the
yeah,
thing.
yep. Richard Carrier wrote something called an apology and going forward, in which he states that he and his wife had an open relationship at that point now. But where did I find it? Let me see. This is actually, is it in my mobile bookmarks? That's really funny. Yeah, where the hell are my mobile bookmarks
I
at?
have no idea. You might have to go into your bookmark.
Yeah,
Into the
yeah,
yeah.
that's really weird. Why would it be in my mobile bookmarks?
Did you bookmark it on your phone?
I thought it was on my tablet.
Oh, then that's probably why.
Mm, where is it at? Oh, I can't. Yes, they're all in my mobiles. And I apologize for this, but I have I I I want to read this so that you get an idea of the type of person that he is. And this is something that I wasn't aware of myself. Now, mind you, the multiple allegations against him, obviously, I am aware of multiple, multiple allegations against him. But what I want to do, I like this is on there's a website called Deeper Waters Apologetics.
Is it the screenshot of his comment you're looking for?
No, is that the one that says that they need to go and get their head checked?
Yeah. He says, I don't know what flirting without intent is or what flirting has to do with people who are bullied. The issues you don't clearly describe some of issues and need to raise with your therapist.
Yep, need to raise with your therapist. Of course, Richard Carrier asking for people to understand what he's going through and how he's being attacked, etc., and yada and blah, the fucking blah. But now I can't find it, and I am upset because I know I have it, and I am upset. And this is actually this is because multiple women asked him to stop. Multiple women asked him to actually told him to stop as well. His first victim, he she broke things off with him, and or I think it was actually an amiable thing, and he sent out a private notice to several friends and colleagues to announce that he and his wife had privately agreed to open their marriage. This is actually back in 2013, to inform them and just ask them, hey, keep it quiet. And even says he, in a private portion of this email, which he sent specifically to his first victim, who again, they were no longer involved. He said, I am now again available for sex, but I require it to be girl, girl, guy. She responded to him vehemently and talked about the boundaries he had pushed, the unfair and undue mental duress that she was under, and cowardice, his cowardice earlier in the year. And she said at the end of her email that he needed to leave her alone, which he did for 2 days. 2 days he did. He said that his behavior was the result of what he called panic, and said, but if you want to cut off all but professional contact, I will understand that too. And you should understand that you saying all but professional contact, you understand that that's a manipulative phrase. It's a manipulative comment because you just want to do what you can to stay platonically involved and ingratiate yourself back into their lives so you can continue to attempt this physical relationship. I'm choosing to scroll through a couple of things, and obviously this is not as I usually speak, but this is simply, if I don't, I will be very mad, which I am anyways, but I will be beyond, but also out of respect for people who are continuing to be and have been harmed. Richard Carrier in 2014 wrote an email. And again, I'm not going to disclose who these individuals are, but it's called A Polyamorous Love Letter, for want of what else to call it. A non email. An email that you didn't send is what to call it. But, anyways, said, you frustrate me. This is what he writes to this person. It seems like every time I'm getting up the nerve to hit on you, you post something like this, which is what called, it was a thing about people who don't respect anybody who doesn't fit a certain image. So I can't because I fear you'll think it's because of that. So you hadn't asked is one reason I've been putting this off, as I'd be mortified at offending a friend. But I hope you'll understand my at least ask, taking a chance and being open about my desire. And no, it certainly wouldn't offend me. I'm also aware this is like some letter a guy might write to his love interest in high school. Eesh, I don't normally do it this way, but function dictated this from this time, even though writing this to you is scary. The guy is in his 50s. So this time I'm saying fuck it and just bearing my heart to you and being a little overly frank and forthcoming and just flat out hitting on you. It has nothing to do with posts like that. You are unequivocally awesome and you know it, which is unequivocally sexy. First off, Mr. Columbia University, choose different adjectives. as I was hoping to talk about this in person sometime, but A, I don't know when will be the next, and B, once again, my previous opportunities kept getting thwarted. So I'm giving up on that plan and making an overture by epistle. Old fashioned, but for it being electronic. I've been working up the nerve to tell you how much I desire you, although I'm a little sexually intimidated by you. I don't mean as a life partner allowed to have any more of those right now, but as a sexual partner. Even if just once, I admire you immensely, your bravado, your power, your honesty, your intelligence, your character, your skill as a writer, and for me, admiring a woman is an enormous turn on. What is it, sapiosexuality? Is that what that is? Pretty creepy, isn't it? Competence is erotic, and sharing sexual experiences with incredible women like you is so what I want out of life. It only adds that you're pretty. Your eyes just melt me. Lots I'd want to kiss on you. But I don't have your permission to go there, so I'll just leave it at that. You didn't have her permission, but you said it anyways. By the way, what he is writing is on purpose because what I am reading comes from the words and the keyboard of Richard Carrier. But I would want to find somebody who says that this is also not the actions of those others that I have mentioned tonight, who have through their own words and actions, even though they have not written anything like this, but rather acted in the exact same fashion and have used their position of power to manipulate and abuse people. When we last hung out, this is again Richard Carrier in his email. I had thought of asking you, especially that night we played Slash, and you were the second to last to leave my room, but you were there with Neil that weekend, and he wasn't well too, and I worried it would seem weird moving in there, and name redacted wanted me. And though I would have said yes to a three-way, I didn't think that it would be appropriate to suggest, not having discussed the possibility with either of you beforehand. So this is a example of where she was the second to last to leave because the last to leave was another woman that he was cheating on his wife with. I didn't want to freak you out with any overture and spent the night with her. Quite happily, don't get me wrong. She has her own share of awesome, and we had a great night together. You just radiate energy, and that's like a brilliant, warm light you just want to embrace and experience passionately. I can go on spending excellent time together with you as a friend when we happen to be around each other. I won't be badly dejected by a no, but if there is a chance you want me, I'm hoping to know. Richard Carrier. This person did respond. You want to read these parts?
Sure.
Okay. Um okay, you would like.
You can sort of see me.
Can you see these?
Yeah. All right. Well, how can I say this? You must have mistaken me for someone who is impressed by multiple accounts of multiple conquests. Thinks calling an RUDTF email a love letter is amusing, confuses getting a hall pass after getting caught rampantly cheating for polyamory, would think that someone would hit on me out of pity, and hasn't noticed the escalation of the way in which you've been acting and talking about and around me. I must have mistaken you for someone who'd get the hint from me not acknowledging and or deflecting the aforementioned hints you've been.
Says, I think this would be about time to have a attorney respond, actually. Richard Carrier writes back and says, "Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I truly didn't mean to offend or hurt you. I'll not renew any overtures again. I do believe and feel all the admiration for you I expressed, and that won't change everything I've said. has been sincere, but I'll keep our interactions from now on strictly professional. If there is anything I can do to help to keep our friendship, let me know and I will. It does matter to me quite apart from my unwanted desires, which he mentions again. Otherwise, I will assume you don't want me to hang out with you in the future, which I quite understand from your reaction. Manipulative right now.
Yeah.
Oh no, not again. Well, is it? Let me know when it's not.
It's fine now.
Okay. Well, I didn't know though, because I can't see it on this end right here.
Yeah, it's kind of on and off. Yeah, it's not all the time. And it's not. Yeah, but
It would be helpful to ensure your comfort from now on if you gave me some idea of how to greet you the next time we meet. I'd feel compelled to apologize again, but you might not want that. You certainly might not want to hug, for example. By default, I'll just smile and say hi and ask after your welfare unless you don't want even that. I really apologize for this. This is manipulative language. You might not want a hug either. This is hoping that the person writes back and says hugging is fine. That is the way this language is written. It's okay. That person responded and said, I'm fine with nothing about our interactions changing, and said, okay, I'll be awkward. Richard Carrier, but that's just me. After I last wrote, I've been agonizing over what I've done for a while on airplanes all day, and I realized I really fucked up. I should not have shared my thoughts and feelings with you without first asking you if you wanted to hear them. This is something he said before, that he had that he was at a convention and he was speaking to somebody for hours after he had spoken, somebody who was obviously interested in his work, and he went on to I've spoken with you about this, Susan, this one where he asked her if it was okay that he would come on to her. You remember that one? And she was like, fuck no, creepy. That's just wrong. He says, I also realize I must have really ruined your day. So I apologize for that as well. I won't communicate about this again unless you ask. Richard. Person responded and said, just so we're clear, you don't have to agonize over telling me something. It wasn't sharing your thoughts and feelings that was a problem. It was everything else I mentioned. Nothing was ruined. I'm not of the belief that communication is a wrong thing. Richard Carey responded and said, no, certainly. Indeed, everything you said was true. This is my life as you described it and how I live it and the nature of the relationships I have. But I a lot that you be respected and that I not cross boundaries I shouldn't or make you uncomfortable for any reason. And that was where I went wrong and what makes me feel awful. The person responded and said, you've been hinting heavily at this for months. If you want to feel awful for months of to reject anyone for any reason. I have no desire to make anyone feel awful. Again, I am buffering. I wonder if they're watching something on the internet, which would make perfect sense.
But remember that I'm delayed.
Yeah. By the way, if you don't hear all of this because of the buffering of the internet, because our roommates don't care that we're streaming and still decide to watch things and use the internet, all of this stuff, anyways, these links will be in the description to where you can go and read these if you would like to. You do not have to. But even if it is buffering, I'm fairly certain you get the gist. Richard Carey responded to this person and said, this actually makes me feel a little better. If that's the case, I don't feel awful because you said no. Oh dear, no, your rejection is fine. Thank you for telling this person that her rejection is fine. Thank you for letting her know that you accept her rejection. I feel awful because I so clearly offended you in my approach and in other respects, at which I realized my approach was atrocious and that you must think horribly of me, which makes me feel awful about myself, not you. As someone I admire greatly, your opinion of me matters to me. I'd paraphrase Elizabeth Bennet. I can't bear the thought of her being in the world and thinking ill of me. Only I feel like more like Mr. Collins presently than Mr. Darcy, so the analogy is off. Yes, there will be a little private pining for you, which I will keep to myself. But that's not feeling awful. You can even openly mock me for it henceforth, and I'd be. Richard Carrier, if you remember in his first email, said that if she rejected him, he would not bring it up again. And yet, what do we find? Continuously bringing it up, continuously using manipulative language.
Stomping all over boundaries that have been clearly established that he did not give a single fuck about.
Yes, he did not care. By the way, I can tell the reason that yours is not, that your voice doesn't pick it up so much because I have the noise gate on.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, as Susan mentioned, stomping over, as she said, boundaries which have been clearly established multiple times. Doc says, stalking.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Richard Carrier wrote that email on September 12th, 2014 at 1 a.m. At 1:37 a.m., he wrote another email and said, I'm not sure whether we are on the same page about what just happened, so I apologize for this one. I have to fisk your initial reply, so you might see my thought process upon reading it. This is hours moved, and thus with far less horrified emotion. Don't read on if you don't care, though, just if you do. When I said your reply was entirely true, that may be hyperbole, but here is what I mean. You quotes, you must have mistaken me for someone who is impressed by multiple accounts of multiple conquests. That's true enough. I didn't mention thinking you'd be impressed, and I don't think that, nor do I reference my relationships with women as conquests. No, but you think that they are, and you can tell by your language. But indeed, I may have been mistaken in what your opinion of my discussing my promiscuity with you might be. It was offensive to you. I did not know that until now. Remember that this person had said they were not offended. Responding to thinks calling a RUDTF email a love letter is amusing, and he says that is even more truth. You have reduced it to the harshest and most blunt distillation, but alas, I would consider it ghastly to actually exclude all thought and feeling and reason in expressing any RUDTF. But you distilled it to essentials. That is what I expressed, and I did not conceal that. And I indeed could not think of what to politely call it, so I tried a terrible joke as a substitute, and you were definitely not amused by that, which in hindsight upon your observation was a warranted reflection. I felt rightly chastised. Again, these are public documents, which anybody can. I found it without even going in. I couldn't find it in my bookmarks. I found it like that. Public documents. And yet, how many times, Susan, when I talk to people who do the mythicist bullshit, do they bring up Richard Carrier?
Every time.
And how many times do they not know about this?
I don't know if it's worse that they don't know or worse that they don't care. I think it's worse that they don't care, but it's still pretty bad if they don't know because it's really easy to find.
Susan, because again, the roommates are, they don't care. They don't they make a lot of noise regardless. As was mentioned, doesn't know what's worse, that they don't know, especially defending him the way that they do, or that they don't care when they find out. He goes on and on and on. And he goes in and he, in this same email, which again, he had already written and then wrote another email without this person responding. and references more of her writings. Says the closest to come was your staying next to last that one night when leaving me and quote whoever else on the same bed and shortly texted me after you left. You're fun when you're drunk. This is manipulative language where he still has this stuff in his phone or wherever it was and attempts to use it against her. To say, see, right here, you were obviously interested in a physical interaction with me. But in fact, I've had people tell me that I'm fun when I'm drunk. No, I haven't. I'm I'm fun when I'm fun, I guess. I don't know. Somebody saying that you're fun when you're drunk doesn't mean they want to fuck you. Says which was wholly cryptic as to signaling interest, disinterest, or neither. That's not an excuse, just a description of my lack of noticing. Maybe it meant you're just fun when you're drunk. Congratulations. So is Neil the 604 atheist. Guess what he's not doing? Any of this. He is, by the way, fun when he's drunk. So is Mikey Famine. Recommend the Bin podcast. This is a incredibly long email that he writes. This person responds and says, you haven't hurt me, harmed me, or offended me, as I said. I'm annoyed at worst and now glad to clear the air. He wrote back and said, annoyed at worst, noted. Thanks for interacting on it. I appreciate that. If there was any more murk you want to clear, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just return to my regularly scheduled programming. Tell me that you could listen to me read that, or maybe better, read it yourself, and then go and read his denials that he has posted, his attacking of victims, and tell me that you believe him. Tell me that you believe him when he says that he's respectful of women and boundaries, that he is innocent of all these charges. Just read these interactions, of which the only things that are redacted are email addresses and the name of the other girl he was fucking behind his wife's back. Go and read them and tell me that you believe him. And yet he has platform after platform after platform after platform. This was in 2014. We've known it since before then. I saw him on channels within the past month, channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, channels that get millions of clicks. And I see him on there. You got a consent problem, atheists. Big fucking problem is what you got. Because you don't care about this. That's fairly obvious. If you cared, you'd hold them fucking accountable, not have them on your platforms. This is as dangerous as platforming the others that I have mentioned. Except you also know this is true. This isn't somebody maybe trolling you and coming on as a white supremacist or a flat earther or some bullshit. These are people who at very best, and this is the most, the chasm that I am providing to this person is as wider than the Pacific. It's a chasm that exists between Donald Trump and the truth. At best, this is an email where he doesn't understand things. But tell me you believe that. Quiet Gorilla, I'd like to read that paper if you have it.
Damn.
But these individuals, Richard Carrier, Lawrence Krauss, David Silverman, Michael Shermer, they still have platforms, large platforms, and they're not called out every single time they fucking say anything. So does Richard Dawkins, by the way. The person who said that it is immoral for a woman who has a fetus that has Downs, it's immoral to do anything but abort it. The one who has said 2 individuals, victims of one of these men, that they should just get over it. His platform. Sam Harris's platform with Islamophobia and heteronormativity. I haven't used that word in a while. I figured I'd use it again.
Yeah.
And his ideas of intelligence based on race and black culture. Peter Boghossian, platformed all the time. At what point you tell me there's toxic masculinity all throughout atheist community? What would you fucking expect when we don't? And mind you, I'm an agnostic. What would we expect when we don't hold these people accountable? And we don't, by the way, we don't hold them accountable. What do we expect? What do we expect from those who are looking for some sort of solidarity? Especially, again, if you're looking at minorities and you're talking about Sam Harris or Peter fucking Boghossian or Richard Dawkins. Expect from those people from those individuals, from those groups of people who are steadily leaving faiths and looking for anything, and that this is the first thing they fucking see. Got a problem. It's an abuse problem. It's a toxic masculinity problem. And by the way, I didn't mention the half of the allegations against these pieces of shit. There's so many more. So many more opportunities that we've given. How is this different from us giving? How is this any different when we look at the priests and when we look at pastors who are given platforms that have no oversight for the most part and who are given situations in which predators have easy access to prey? How is it different? And then and we've talked about a lot of this on our show, and then when they're confronted and the allegations come out against them, their congregations stand up in solidarity with them. How is this fucking different? The only thing that you have different from a fucking fundamentalist evangelical is that you don't believe in God. You are the same. And I'm not sorry that I say that, because you are. You're the fucking same. And I hate you for it. So much I do. Because I personally know the damage and the harm likely irreparable, that this causes. I think I've said enough, right? So
You said a lot.
Is it ever enough? Honestly,
No.
Is the. But I think you get it, right? You don't have to listen to me. In fact, not at all. You could look at me and view me as the person who is that at one point took advantage of women. Maybe I'm just maybe, and you could look at me and you could think, and I would be, in fact, so understanding if you said, well, this guy, he's just attempted to do this to cover his tracks over his current abuse. That's valid. And I can tell you that that's not the case. But a history of abuse, how do we know if a person's truly changed? I could sit here and tell you that I have, and I can advocate against these fucks who do far more than I ever that I ever did. Now, there's no excuse for anything that I did, and I'm not attempting to minimize anything. I never raped anybody. I never sexually assaulted anybody. That is what I mean when I say that. But the mental and emotional abuse that I put people through, you don't have to listen to me. You don't. And unlike Richard Carrier, I actually do respect that. I do hope that at some point I am that I'm able to earn that trust. But I will understand if it never occurs. Because if this is the first time you're listening to me, you might not know. And in fact, if you're almost anybody, because it's not public knowledge, but it's important for me because it is part of who I was and because I don't want to be dishonest with anybody. But you, if it's not me that you listen to, and again, valid, go read the links that I have, that we have. Go in and read those. And Doc obviously knows a few things. And is still here for some reason.
Doc loves us.
I have never once considered using this to take advantage of anybody. But I've said enough about these unrepentant abusive people. Allegedly. And so I am going to attempt to end on a lighter note, if that's okay. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's preferred.
Okay. Susan and I have a hobby. And that is, of course, talking about platypus. I'm just kidding, although, again, platypus. No, we have a real hobby, and the hobby, of course, is that we collect. Oops, you can see behind me, and she's over there. There she is. Yep. We collect Funko Pops. Susan collects Star Wars Funko Pops and Parks and Rec Funko Pops and Schitt's Creek and others. Yes. Behind us here are a fair amount of the Star Wars Funko Pops. There are over 300.
Oh yeah.
Over 300 Star Wars Pops. Behind them, you can also see some right up here. Right here as well. These are up on shelving. And there are others. There are probably 800 altogether, I think.
I think so.
Somewhere around there. And what we have decided to do, and thank you to those of you that participated in a little poll we put together last week. What we have decided to do is to start a little part of our whether it's this channel or a different channel, regardless, it's going to be here pretty quickly, where we actually are going to talk about them. And just that, nothing else. And actually, you have like unboxing and stuff of some of them, or like the little Deadpool fella you see right here, right? To where it's kind of just like talk about them and stuff. Talk about Star Wars and we talk about Back to the Future, I guess, and yeah, I'm guessing that's just a can you delete that one, love? Yeah, I would do that. And oh, please always be atheists and get that omnibar. Okay, thanks. Yeah, cool. I'm not an atheist, so you're trolling the wrong room. Yeah. And we are we're gonna have fun with that. We have to like unboxing and things. Some of them are enormous. Up here you can't see it, but is the largest one we have right now. Yeah. Is the Han Solo Millennium Falcon. And then the child as well, a 10-inch one. I don't know if he's 10 inches longer here or like tall.
Probably wide.
Yeah, enormous. And so we have a lot of those, and we are going to go over those. We're going to have a good time. Oops, hit the camera. Apologize for that. Have a good time with that. And I mean, we have a lot. And so it's going to be fun, and we hope that some of you will join us with in doing that, because they are just there's so much fun to the especially the Deadpool ones that we've seen recently that are just so detailed and have just little things here and there that just make them so great. And we hope that you'll join us with that. Also, we have like Lego stuff and things like that as well, that you'll join us with those and take a look see at what we have, and then apparently we have influenced other people to get some. So that's coming soon. We'll let you folks know. This is a heavy show, and so it's 8:30 in the evening here. I think it's 11:30 on the East Coast then. Hi, East Coast, if you're watching. And also whatever time it may be, wherever you are. Anyways, time, place, all that bullshit. I'll be on again tomorrow night with the children's book. That is Thursdays, isn't it? I did it on Thursday last week.
I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, it's like 15 minutes out of your day. I read a children's book. Come watch. That'll be fun. I think it's Thursdays.
I guess.
May 27th. Cool. I'm gonna leave now, and that's just what I'm gonna do. Now I know that when I hit end stream, I've learned this that it cuts off the end of it.
It does.
So I'm just going to sit here for a second and do this and say thanks for watching, and I hope that this was not too traumatizing because I'm not joking very seriously. And I'm just gonna sit here for like, what do you think, like 5 seconds?